Tourisme Montréal is delighted to welcome you to the 2022 FINA World Junior Diving Championships. Visit mtl.org to get the inside scoop on everything happening in the city and to discover the best of Montreal. Tourisme Montréal est ravi de vous accueillir au championnat du monde junior de plongeon de la FINA 2022. Visitez mtl.org pour savoir tout ce qui se passe à Montréal et découvrir ce que la ville a de meilleur à offrir.
Diving fans, please welcome the Boys B platform finalists. Please welcome our athletes representing Italy.
Représentant l'Italie,
Valerio Mosca. Representing Mexico.
représentant le Mexique,
Jesus Espinosa Garcia. Representing Australia.
représentant l'Australie,
Jonah Mercica. Representing Colombia.
représentant la Colombie,
Juan Manuel Lopez Gomez. Representing Singapore.
représentant Singapour,
Max Lee. Representing Canada.
représentant le Canada,
Arnold Korba. Representing Ukraine.
représentant l'Ukraine,
Marco Barsukov. Representing Italy.
représentant l'Italie,
Simon Conte. Representing Canada.
représentant le Canada,
Samuel Talbot. Representing Great Britain.
représentant la Grande-Bretagne,
Jordan Fisher Ames. Representing Ukraine.
représentant l'Ukraine,
Kiro Bolchak. And representing United States of America,
représentant les États-Unis d'Amérique,
Joshua Hedberg. Ladies and gentlemen, your athletes competing in the Boys B Platform Finals. Always our pleasure to introduce our officials for these events. Our referee for this event is Hannah Novotna. Your assistant referee, Yuki Kanado.
and your judges, judge number 1, Carla Hernando Ferrer, judge number 2, Julie Sinove Thorson, judge number 3, Tony Charles Donaldson, judge number 4, Hugo Parisi, judge number 5, Christian Picker, judge number 6, Lena Elizabeth Damgard, and judge number 7, Daniela Mihela Hilies.
And we are back on day 6 of the FINA Junior World Championships here in Montreal. I'm with Kaylee Mackay, and we're starting off the second final of the day with the Boys B platform event. We have 4 rounds, and we have some pretty crazy dives. Kaylee and I were going through the list. We're going to see some inward 3.5s, some back arm stand twists. We're going to see some back 3.5s, and more importantly, we're going to see one forward 4.5 somersaults.
So we have a DD range from 2.1 to 3.7.
That's big.
That's big.
Starting our first round of dives, Valerio from Italy with the back 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist.
Pretty good start for him. This is a relatively easy dive. It's generally used as a lead up, so he'll be wanting this to be perfectly technical. His entry was very, very good. Top was pretty decent. I think he was a little bit short on that entry. Low DD, but he executed it pretty well.
He did execute it very nicely, and looking on our list, he only is doing his 4 optional dives on the 5 meter. So they must have been impressive enough in the final in order to get him, or in the prelim in order for him to make it to this final, because he is having a little bit lower DD on that 5 meter platform. And we will go all the way up to the 10 meter. Diver number 2, Jesus, with a forward 3.5 somersault pike position. It's pretty crazy to see B-boys who are 14 and 15 doing really, really big dives, forward 3.5s, back 3.5s, inward 3.5s.
It's very exciting.
It is very exciting. It makes for a very fun event. A 40-point spread between 1st and 12th going into this final with their preliminary compulsory scores.
I really liked his top. He was very, very aggressive with that punch on the tower. He had a really good direction, just over-rotated a little bit on the bottom, ducking his head maybe a little bit.
A really nice pike, too. It's just all about finding that bottom and controlling it. Next up, we have Jonah from Australia competing the same dive. And in this event, we'll have 12 athletes, 2 from Italy, 2 from Canada, 2 from the Ukraine, 1 from Mexico, 1 from Australia, 1 from Colombia, 1 from Singapore, 1 from Great Britain, and 1 from USA. So we do have quite a mix of countries here in this final.
A nice variation, and we'll get to see a lot of different techniques and styles, and hopefully some really good dives. So unlike our previous diver, who had a little bit of too much rotation and a really, really strong punch off the tower, Jonah had a little bit less rotation, was a little stuck on that top, leading him to go a little bit short on the bottom there.
Next up, we will see Juan on the 5 meter competing a back 2.5 somersault tuck position. A lot of the dives that we're going to see on the 5 meter today are the lead ups for the bigger dives on the 10 meter platform. The back 2.5 tuck we're about to see would be the lead up for the back 3.5 tuck on the 10 meter.
And this back 2.5 tuck on 5 meter is actually still a really good high DD, so it is advantageous to learn these lead ups, get them perfected before you're going up to 10 meter in the next age group, and use the advantage of the DD. Beautiful. I noticed a little head up on the top, so I was a little worried there about him going over, but his tuck position was beautiful. Tight, tight kick, beautiful toes, and he reached into the water and saved it perfectly.
Definitely a nice knee save from him under the water, saving that splash from coming up as he slightly over-rotated, receiving great scores with a total of 61.5 on his first dive of this final. Max from Singapore with the forward 3.5 somersault pike position. It's always cool to see a couple of the same dive in a row, being able to compare.
And that was a really good start for Max. I think he'll be very, very happy with that. He was very consistent throughout that whole dive. Maybe a little short on the bottom, but he managed to have a clean entry, beautiful pike position in the air. Very good way for him to start off the event. It's nice to be able to compare and contrast, like you said, between an over front 3.5, short front 3.5, and one that was pretty much straight in, really high quality. Get ready to hear the crowd scream.
Next up from Canada, Arnaud. The same dive, but in the tuck position. When Arnaud rips an entry, it is
Phenomenal.
phenomenal.
And the crowd is happy. He'll be happy with that. Looked a little stuck on the top to me, but he managed to get that entry in. He's very, very good at doing his entries. He knows how to rip all of his dives. Judges are going to be happy with this.
Also really fun to have that large cheering squad up in the stands.
Always nice to start off with a dive that's comfortable like that one for him and that you can rip, feel confident going into it. Good start for him. Up next, we have Marco doing a front 3.5 in the pike position.
A nice dive for Marco starting off this event. His come out could have just been a little bit more confident, doing a really nice 4.3.5, just coming out, finding the water, stretching for it a bit more. He almost panicked like he didn't have enough time, giving that slight over rotation. Starting with a reverse direction, Simone from Italy on the 10 meter, the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck position. This can be a really great dive when done correctly. Like all dives.
Well, this is one of my favorite dives to watch the men's B in particular doing, because you don't generally see much of it in the men's A, because these kids tend to know how to perfect them. They, you know, it's a lower DD, so they know they have to nail it if they're going to do it and make it worth it. So overall, pretty good dive for him. This dive is a very easy dive, but also very hard because you have to control it for quite a long time. You spin, he spun a little bit slow on this. He could have kicked a little bit tighter and not necessarily arched it in there. Generally, you'll see these boys spin really fast and kick at the water and have to hold it for a long time. 6s are an okay score on this dive. I think he'll be, you know, satisfied with starting off with that, but definitely room for improvement.
On the 7 meter, Canadian Samuel Talbot with an inward 2.5 somersault tuck position.
Beautiful start for Sam. Man, these kids know how to rip. These Canadian boys, they really know how to rip, and they know how to get the crowd going. That was a beautiful top, beautiful takeoff. He's a very promising young diver.
Diving consistent in the prelim, coming fourth. Hoping to maintain a medal spot in the final, needing to be consistent, strong, and continuing with those rip entries. Also up on the 7 meter from Great Britain, Jordan, doing the same dive, inward 2.5. Wow. There was a lot of technique in that dive. It was very beautiful right from the start.
A lot of technique. I mean, if you just look at that come out, I mean, the top, the rhythm of that punch, the come out, the pike come out, and looking right at the water, going in really, really clean. Very, very strong dive.
One of the most technically sound dives that we've seen from the first 10 divers.
Really showing all those positions when you come out, not necessarily just rolling in and coming out slowly of that position is really important, and this will be good for him growing up into the A category.
Kirill from the Ukraine, taking it to the next step on the 10 meter with the inward 3.5 somersault.
Kirill's list is actually one of the highest DDs out of this whole event, so it'll be really fun. You're seeing really, really high DD dives coming up. And that was a very, very strong start for him. I think he'll be very happy with that. He had a really strong takeoff, beautiful tuck position, pretty good entry, and maybe a little bit rolling. Could have saved it a little bit better, but he's going to get some good scores on that one.
Really impressive diving from the age group that we're watching right now.
Very.
Usually the B age group is kind of when you're getting into the feel of trying out the new dives, the more difficult dives. But for Kirill, it seems like they come very naturally, and he already has quite a high DD in this event.
Nice 72 points to start off that first round for him. And our last diver of this round is Joshua on the 10 meter doing the same dive. Inward 3.5 tuck position.
We've seen some really, really impressive diving from Joshua, earning his first place spot in the prelim with high intent to keep that first place spot.
He's also another one that has a really high DD list.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Finishing that way above the water, knowing exactly where he is. He's such a calm competitor.
See, he looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. He stands there, he's like, I've got this.
It must be a great feeling.
It must be.
Now we will see the leaderboard after round 1 of 4. Coming in first place, Kirill from the Ukraine. Only 5 points behind Max Lee from Singapore, and pretty much tied Joshua, who we just saw from the USA, following quickly behind Canada, and also tied with Canada for 2:30, Great Britain's Jordan. An already very exciting event. Platform usually gets the crowd a little bit more excited. We're seeing some bigger dives. The rip entry off the 10 meters, you know, significantly more impressive than off the 1 meter. It's nice to have a mix-up of things happening today, and then we'll finish off the day with the men's 3 meter synchro, which will also be very fun to watch. And I think we'll see an array of dives and DDs in that event.
It's really nice to have this event be very exciting. You know, seeing the high DD dives, the high quality rips. Usually we see that in like the A event and we get a big crowd, excited crowd for that event. But to have it in the B event, to have this crowd excited and to be able to excite, you know, all the divers, it's really special.
Starting round 2 from Italy, Valerio with a forward 2.5 somersault in the pike position. Stunning.
Beautiful dive. He finished perfectly straight up and down, had a pretty strong takeoff on that, and really not much to pick apart.
No criticism here for Valerio. Next up will be Jesus from Mexico. A very, very quick spinner, jumping high off the platform. Also, we just watched his coach tell him to make sure that when he enters the water, he does that pike save, sucking all the water under him. Wow.
Beautiful entry on that.
Not as high as we would like to see, considering we've already seen some really nice inward 3.5s in this event, but managing to slip away when he entered the water, hoping maybe that the judges will kind of forget the rest of the dive, focus mostly on the entry.
It's the last thing the judges see, so if you can at least do a really nice entry, then you're putting yourself in a good place. He could be a little bit stronger on that jump, but it's a really good start for him, and I mean, it's number 3.5 in Group B, so we'll take that.
Jonah from Australia, also with the inward 3.5 on the 10 meter. Hoping for a bit quicker rotation on this than his forward 3.5. But Jonah also has a really decent list all up on the 10 meter, doing some big dives.
That's a decent dive overall. I mean, he did fall back a bit on the top. You would like to see him be have a bit more direction on that jump so that he can get a nice rotation. Felt a little stuck, a little rushed into that entry as well and rolling over. So he could work on that strength off the top a little bit, but I think he'll be satisfied with this.
A very nice dive overall. Bringing things down to the 7 meter. Juan from Colombia with a reverse 2.5 somersault. So we've seen one of these on the 10 meter already. Now we're gonna see one on the 7 meter. Taking a little bit more effort, rotation, jump when you're bringing it down those 2.5 meters, because ultimately what we call the 7 meter is the 7.5 meter.
Beautiful.
No problem for Juan.
That was a rip. That was a rip if I've ever seen one.
I wasn't entirely sure when he kicked out. I thought he might be going short.
Yeah.
Obviously, Juan is well aware of where he is and what he's doing. Just disappearing into the water. That's exactly what the judges want to see, the coaches want to see, the fans want to see, what we want to see.
Super exciting stuff from Juan.
Receiving 8s and 8.5. The best scores so far of this final.
Up next, we have Max on the 10 meter doing an arm stand, double 1.5 twist backwards.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
The judges want to see control in the handstand. They want to see that you can get into it nice and controlled. This doesn't stand so much anymore, but they do want to see you hold it for at least a couple of seconds to show that you know how to hold a handstand. A very nice kip from Max and a very nice dive overall.
Very nice dive overall. He showed control, and that's generally what they want to see. They want to see kind of a handstand that you can choose when you go. Not a forced, I got to go now. So this is a really good dive for him. I did really like that kip as well.
Very
and that
nice.
straight position all the way into where he pikes it over into the entry. It's beautiful. 67.2 for him.
Team Canada up on the 10 meter. Arnaud, a back 2.5 somersault, half twist.
Beautiful dive from him. His entry was a little bit loose, a little flying over there, but I really like the definition of this top here. He does the half twist. You can see him make that half twist square and then pike right into that beautiful pike position. He was just a little over rotating. Could have been a little tighter in his abs there. But that's all learning. He'll learn. It's a bit of adrenaline as well,
Next up, Marco from the Ukraine on the 10 meter, inward 3.5 tuck.
So that was a beautiful entry. His top was powerful, but I did not necessarily enjoy the direction of it. He could have been a little bit more pushed out just for that comfort, in my opinion. Inward is generally a scary dive because our heads generally do pass the tower. Sometimes in the boys' cases it's the toes, but I think he could have been a little farther away. Judges didn't deduct for it, not too much at least, I don't think. But the entry was clean, beautiful dive overall, just that one little important thing.
The safety component of the dive.
Safety component.
Simone from Italy doing a forward 2.5 somersault full twist on the 10 meter. We talk about this dive. Will they twist first or will they twist after their somersault?
So generally on 10 meter, it's more common to twist into the flip rather than outside. It's a little harder to generate that twist outside. So you see he goes twist first and then pike. Overall good dive. Cutting a little short there on the bottom. Other than that, not much to pick apart with this dive. Beautiful twist position, beautiful pike. Could have piked a little bit more into that entry, but
now we're going to see Samuel from Canada on the 7 meter with a back 2.5 somersault tuck position. Stunning.
oh my gosh,
Wow.
gorgeous. That jump, first of all, when he jumps straight up and then gets into that tuck, you know that he's going to know where he is. He kicks so tight. He knows exactly where he is on that entry and just demolishes it.
That was a very
beautiful.
beautiful back 2.5 from Samuel. He's going to be super happy with that.
8.5s, 8s, 7.5, 67.2 on that dive. He's going to be really happy with that. Crowd's happy, coach is happy. Coming up next, we have Jordan on the 7 meter doing the same dive, a back 2.5 tuck position.
Well, it was going to be tough for Jordan to follow in the footsteps of Samuel on that same dive, showing that he was unfazed, doing pretty much the same dive, beautiful strong takeoff, knowing where he is, that really nice, powerful, strong kick, dropping it in straight up and down, disappearing into the water.
You know, sometimes it can be hard to follow a really good dive, especially when you're following with the exact same dive. So, I mean, he got a 9 on that. He handled that pressure pretty well. Alrighty, coming up, We have Kirill doing the biggest dive of this event, a front 4.5 somersault tuck position. This is a dive you see on the senior circuit. This is a huge dive, so get ready for this. This could be the dive of the day. And that is the dive of the day. If I say so, I got goosebumps. Man, the amount of power these kids need to generate to be able to do this dive at this age is insane. And at this level, speechless.
A total of 92.5 for Kirill on his second dive. A rare score.
Wow.
In the B platform event. Everybody clapping. That was very, very impressive.
It's really nice to see that in the diving community we can appreciate good dives. No matter what team you're from, we all support it when we see a really good, hard dive done. Kudos.
Next up, Joshua from the United States with a back arm stand double somersault, 2.5 twist.
Which is also a very high DD dive, just 0.1 lower than the front 4.5 tuck. So still high, very, very high caliber dive, senior level dive. And he's very capable of doing this one very well. Gorgeous. Like we said before, we want to see a controlled handstand, a nice kip, come out, entry. He did all that very, very well. So maybe slightly short, but he managed to rip it. So can't really pull it apart too much. So that's it after 2 rounds of dives.
We're going to start to see some breaks in the points. Kirill with 329 in the lead, dropping it down 20 points to Joshua in second, and then 8 points down to Jordan in third. So we're starting to see a bit of distance between the points and the dives. We're only halfway through the final. There's still room for athletes to push up. Kirill has really made his mark with his forward 4.5 somersault in this final. Starting our third round of dives, Valerio from Italy with the lowest DD that we are going to see in this final, the reverse 1.5 somersault tuck position on the 5 meter. But like I said before, obviously he knows how to do all 4 of these dives. He has made himself into the final. Only top 12 athletes get to be in this final.
And that's a good dive to do. You know, sometimes it's hard to do easy dives in a high adrenaline atmosphere, so he controlled that really well. Nice takeoff, beautiful tuck. Very nice entry. It's a good dive for him. Still on the 5 meter, we have Jesus doing a back 2.5 somersault tuck position. Very, very fast spinner. You know, his top was pretty aggressive, fast spinning, but that come out just wasn't what we were looking for. Didn't quite reach into the water like he needed to. Shoulders were a little shrugged, so the feedback from the water is that you're going to get a bit of a splash there.
Going back up to the 10 meter with a back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist. We're going to see Jonah from Australia. Very, very nice.
Very nice job. Beautiful entry. That was a very, very deep squat too on the top, eh?
Very deep.
Little falling back in my opinion, but he managed that entry really, really well.
Next up, on the 5 meter, Juan from Colombia, inward 2.5 somersault tuck position. Not too bad. Just a little cutoff on the takeoff, meaning that there wasn't that super high jump takeoff we like to see. Still spins like a top.
Could have been a little tighter on that entry. You can see a little bit of a loose stomach on that. He's a little arched, which is not necessarily what you want to see when you're already over-rotating a little bit, but since he was rushed on the bottom there because he didn't have much height, it's to be expected.
Max from Singapore on the 10 meter. We just saw a really great dive from him in round 2. Now on the inward 3.5.
So I liked his distance. I liked his rhythm. He didn't necessarily jump as high as we would want to see. He didn't spin as fast as we would want to see. I think he felt a little rushed there too. He came out a bit early and then kind of rolled it over.
Just not that controlled.
No.
A kick out and entry we want to see on these bigger dives.
His coach telling him to look at the water rather than rolling over.
Arnaud from Canada with a back 2.5 pike on the 10 meter. This is one of those dives Kaylee was noting that if they spin really quickly, they come out quite early, almost at the double, floating it around to their entry.
He knows how to rip this dive very, very well. So let's see if he can put it down right now.
It's very helpful in an event. Doing the dives you know how to do best, feeling confident, not feeling that stress or the butterflies in your tummy.
Mm-hmm. So he didn't generate quite enough spin on that one as we would want to see. Probably try to control it a little bit too much. Came out at the spot that he would generally come out with a, faster top. Just fell into that entry short. It is really hard to manage nerves in situations like this, especially when you're new to it. So all these kids, it's probably one of their first experiences with this kind of adrenaline and pressure. He's not going to be very happy with that. You can see he's a little upset, but he can move on, finish on a strong note. One more dive for him.
Next up, we have Marco with one of the higher DDs of this event, the back arm stand double with a 1.5 twist. Ukraine quite often having 2 athletes in the final for the events this week. A very strong team, very resilient.
Again, wanting to see that really controlled handstand where you can choose when you go. Oh, okay, so that was a beautiful dive up until the end. You can see he really tried to reach for the water looking forward. Just being a little loose in that chest or stomach forces him to arch into that, not able to pike save and bring all that water in with him. So landing a bit short, bringing up a lot of splash. He'll be deducted for that.
Simone from Italy up on the 10 meter, the forward 3.5 somersault pike position.
Beautiful dive. I wasn't sure he was going to make it from the top. I thought it was a little bit not strong enough necessarily on that punch. Little falling forward. He managed to come out, look at the water, knew exactly where he was. Pretty good entry for him. Good dive.
The next diver, Samuel from Canada. We've seen some really great entries from him on his first 2 dives on the 7 meter. Now coming up to the 10 meter for his 2 last dives, competing the reverse 2.5 for the 3rd round. Very looking forward to seeing what Samuel can do. Samuel in 5th going into this round. Feeling the adrenaline from
Very
this
strong
event.
top on that. I could tell from the beginning that he was going to go a little over. The direction was a little bit up, and that top was really good. Just a bit too much oomph for a 2.5. He would have had to kick a lot earlier for that and just let it float over rather than kick tight and reach right away. When you reach your hands a little too early and you're too high, you pull more rotation into the dive. So unfortunately, that wasn't necessarily the dive we were looking for him, but he still got one more. Finish on a good note. Now we have Jordan on the 10 meter doing the same dive, a reverse 2.5 tuck position. Gorgeous. That was a really good reverse 2.5. You can see that he had a bit more direction outwards, which kind of helps you when you kick out to bring you back into that line. He kicked quite early, looked at his toes, held it out, reached right at the end of the dive to bring him into that beautiful entry. 8s and 7.5s. He'll be happy with that. 64.4 on that dive.
Next up on the 10 meter, Kirill, who just previously did a forward 4.5 somersault for 91 points. It was unbelievable. Now in the 3rd round, competing the back arm stand twisting dive we've seen a few of already.
Wow. You could tell by his kip that he basically stopped, twisted, and then went back into his pike for that positioning. He knew exactly where he was. Super controlled dive, which is not an easy thing to do on an arm stand. He's going to be very happy with that. He's been really strong and really consistent, so this will for sure keep him up there, gaining a bit more of a lead with 72 points on that dive. Our last diver of this round, we have Joshua doing a back 3.5 tuck position, the first one that we've seen of this event. 3.3 DD, and generally a very good dive for him.
Joshua coming first in the prelim, really having to fight with Kirill for that first place finish this final. Kirill already surpassing the 400-point mark. Joshua needing 91.9 points on this dive. It's the only back 3.5 we're going to see in this event.
So it won't be 91, but it's still a pretty good dive. Slightly over-rotating, trying to tuck save that. He had a really strong jump, really nice tuck, kicked a little bit high, which led him going over. Splash kind of came from that tuck save, but 6.5 sevens is a decent score on a back 3.5, but it won't be enough to get him up on the top spot after this round. One more round to go. We'll see the standings right now. First place we have Kirill from Ukraine. Second we have Joshua from USA. Second we have Jordan from Great Britain, with quite a disparity in points. We'll see what happens in the last round.
Round 4 of 4 for the boys B on the platform. Starting off this round, Valerio from Italy with the inward 2.5 somersault tuck position. Valerio, 12th in the prelim, 8th going into this final round.
This is actually his highest degree of difficulty dive, so he's ending on a harder dive for him. Let's see if he can put a good one down for the last one of this event. Beautiful. That was a very, very, very strong dive. He had a really nice top on that. Very good rhythm. Beautiful tuck, and he knew exactly where he was coming out, reaching right for the water, and pike saving all of that water and air with him. I think he'll be really happy with that finish.
It's really nice to finish off better in the final than when you went in. On the 10-meter, Jesus from Mexico, a back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist.
We'll be seeing a few of these in the last round. I think we'll be seeing 4 of them with an assortment of 1 or 2 other, maybe more twists, maybe less twists. But this is generally a very comfortable dive for people to end on.
Not the best bottom we've seen on this dive. Just a little bit heavy.
Kind of rolling into that entry, maybe trying to pike save, maybe not getting it quite at the right time. Sometimes when you try to pike save and save it because you're going over, you do it a little early, and it kind of creates a bit of a bomb.
Probably not the way Jesus wanted to finish the event, but still making the final, an international event, so many competitors in the prelim. It's all very impressive. Great work from Jesus.
Next up, we have Jonah from Australia, ending on a reverse 2.5 tuck position on the 10 meter. Pretty good dive.
That was definitely the most rotation that we've seen from Jonah in this event. Really quick into his tuck. He's been a little slow on some of his dives. That was a really, really nice way to finish off the event. Great technique. He really understands the dive, and I'm sure he's going to be pretty thrilled to finish off this final with 8.
Always a good feeling. Up next, we have Juan from Colombia doing a front 3.5 somersault tuck on the 7.5 meter.
This is the second time we're going to see Juan on the 7 meter competing dives that we're also seeing the athletes do on the 10 meter.
A lot of control on that dive. Saw him reaching for the water quite early, which I was a little worried about, but he knows what he's doing. He knows where he was, spinning super fast, quite an aggressive top. He's going to be really happy with that finish.
Diver number 5, Max from Singapore, a back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist.
Gorgeous. That was a really, really strong dive for Max. His top was beautiful. He had a really square come out on that twist. Beautiful pike, reached for that entry very, very nicely. He's being very, very happy with that. The judges are going to like that as well. Overall, very strong event for Max. It's always nice to see some smiles after you finish your events as well. So,
Team Canada on the 10 meter, Arnaud with a reverse 2.5 somersault tuck position. All of his teammates knowing he can absolutely put this dive away, hoping the adrenaline being in this final will kick in and he can land straight up and down with that rip entry.
beautiful. What a way to finish for him. That's what he needed. He needed that to feel good after this whole event. It's such a great experience for him to be here making a final at a Junior Worlds, finishing like that. We're going to see some, hopefully some nines. Eight and a half and nines for him. Very strong finish.
Marco on the 10 meter, a back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist, finishing off his event, the DD of 3.2.
Decent end for him. I mean, he ended up a little short. This isn't necessarily the final I think he was hoping for. Showing a lot of potential, strong jumps. All these divers are very strong divers with a lot of potential. Today just wasn't necessarily Marco's day, ending his event with a 62.40 in that dive.
Diver number 8, Simone from Italy on the 7 meter. He will be doing an inward 2.5 somersault in the tack position. An okay finish from Simone. A nice inward 2.5.
Wasn't necessarily as strong as you'd like to see on that top. A little over-rotating, but decent finish for him.
Diver number 9, our second Canadian in this final, Samuel, with a back 2.5 somersault, half twist. The crowd is going crazy. They're excited for him to finish off this event, hopefully on a high note.
An okay finish for him, landing a little short. I could see he was a little nervous when he was standing on the end of that tower, which is, I mean, completely normal, handling those nerves. Still a beautiful dive, showing a lot of technical aspects of it, which is very nice to see. Just landing a little short, reaching for the water a little bit too forward. Up next, we have Jordan from Great Britain doing a back 2.5, 1.5 twist, 3.2 DD. The last 3 dives we'll see are all going to be back twisters.
Gorgeous. That's a really nice way for Jordan to finish off the event. Jordan third going into this final round, hoping to maintain that podium spot, working really hard on that entry, making that really beautiful rip sound that everybody likes to hear. Finishing off with a total of 442, securing that third spot currently.
Very strong event for him. His team's happy. I think he'll be satisfied with that. Big hugs all around.
Very calm demeanor, finishing off the event with such a great dive, receiving 8s. Now we have Kirill, the leader of this event, starting off the final round with a score of 401. Very impressive. He will be competing a back 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist.
Gorgeous finish for him too. Super strong on that top. He knows where the water is, so I'm never really worried about that entry. It's more the positions in the air. He does a really interesting connection into that back twist, really getting that half twist before wrapping into that other full twist. He's gonna be very happy. This is gonna be a very, very high point for him, high pointage for him. What a way to end the event. What an event for him.
Finishing with a score of 476.9. Very, very impressive work from Kirill with those big dives, big DDs, very, very consistent diving, and that's what we want to see here. And finishing off this event is Joshua Hedberg from the United States of America, doing almost the same dive, but adding another twist, making it extremely more difficult. The back 2.5 somersault, 2.5 twist.
So though it's not impossible for him to get the first spot, he will need very, very, very high scores. This DD is 3.6. He'll need at least 100 points, a little over 100 points for this.
He can very confidently get the second spot here.
He can very, yes. So that was still a very good dive. With this DD, that will be still a very high score. This is a really hard dive to do.
He did it with ease. He just came out too early, ultimately.
Yeah, reached a little bit too early there. A little loose on that entry. But, I mean, still 63 points, so.
Not securing that second place spot.
Nope. So, interesting little change up there. It's all up into the last dive.
It always is. We really did assume Josh was going to get that second spot with that high DD. It's crazy because for such a difficult dive, it really wasn't that hard. He just came out a little bit too early, still securing a medal for the United States. We're going to see the rankings on the screen here soon. Kirill surpassing his competitors over 30 points higher than Jordan from Great Britain, coming in that second place. A very, very impressive competition from all the boys who competed. We're seeing great scores.
So we see Kirill first place, Jordan second place, Josh in third, followed by Max. All these boys put a real good show on. They all dealt with their nervousness, the adrenaline. It's a great experience. I can't say it enough how important this Junior Worlds is for experience in building an athlete. So I hope everybody enjoyed this event as much as I did. I love watching these boys do tower, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them all grow.
Next up, the men's 3-meter synchro event. Kaylee, thank you for joining me. We'll be back soon.
Thank you, guys.
A highlight reel from the boys B3 meet or platform finals on the video boards for you now.